Welcome to the deep dive. We've got some really interesting source material today.
Yeah, we do.
And our mission, as always, is pretty straightforward. Pull out the key insights, the really important stuff so you can get up to speed fast. Today, we're diving into, well, a pretty intense piece of content. It's that YouTube video. The most eye-opening 10 minutes of your life, David Goggins, from the Motivation Madness channel.
Right. And what we really want to unpack in this deep dive is, the core message of that video.
Yeah.
It's all about the sheer power that's locked inside the human brain.
Okay.
We'll be looking at how developing mental toughness and like this absolute commitment to effort, how that can be the key to smashing through what we think are our limits.
Right. Achieving more than seems possible.
Exactly. It's about, getting control of the control center up there.
Yeah, absolutely. And the video, it kind of hits you straight away with this idea. Your brain, that's the ultimate weapon. Especially, he says, when you actually put down the phone, step away from the computer, all that noise.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? Where is all that mental energy going?
It does. And what I found compelling is how fast it pivots to the really tough life moments. Depression, loss, major hardship.
Yeah.
Stuff you just can't Google an answer for.
No, exactly. And in those moments, he argues, your brain, and crucially, how you manage its response to that, becomes your number one asset, your only real tool sometimes.
And that's such a critical point. The speaker, Goggins, he really hammers this internal battle, how easily our own minds can drag us into negative loops, negative thinking.
Yeah.
He puts it very, very bluntly. Something like, you have got to tell your brain where you want to go, how you want to get there. You have to control it. If not, he says, it's over.
Wow. Yeah, that's stark. It's a real demand for mental discipline.
It really is.
Look, if you're not steering the ship, something else will be. Right.
Yeah.
And the video then kind of shifts into how you take control. And a big part of that is just sheer hard work.
Right. He talks about this early realization he had, almost like a foundational thing, that genuine achievement just boils down to putting in the work. He tells that story, remember, about struggling with just one paragraph in a book.
Yeah, I do.
And it wasn't clicking, but he just kept at it, reading it, writing it down, like wrestling with it.
Until bang, that I got it moment.
Exactly. And that kind of, stubborn persistence in learning, that really hits home.
It does. And it's not just about book learning either. That story about learning to swim, that takes the idea of relentless effort, like to a whole other level.
Oh, yeah.
He describes just facing this fear, this thing he couldn't do, and just going back in the water again and again and again.
Until his mind just accepted it.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
It accepted swimming as solvable purely because he was so relentlessly persistent. He wouldn't give up. He uses that analogy, doesn't he? The long clock goes off. Boop, we're going back.
Yeah, that image is powerful.
And the insight there for you, the listener, is that just engaging persistently, even with stuff that feels impossible, it can actually rewire your brain. You start seeing solutions.
It really drives home that point that, if you want to learn something deeply, properly, it often takes that dedicated grind. Repetition.
Yeah. Training your brain to see the challenge not as a wall, but as, a hurdle to get over with sustained effort.
So building on that idea of effort, the video then gets into something even more intense, this concept of giving yourself absolutely no way out.
Right. And this is different from just like trying hard.
Yeah.
Because he suggests our minds are actually pretty smart. They know when we're just saying we're trying hard, but we've still got escape routes planned.
Okay.
He says something like, your mind knows, man. It knows this guy's, he's lying. There's no real truth behind it.
So instead of just trying, it's about total immersion.
Exactly. Total immersion in the challenge. His Navy SEAL training experience is like the ultimate example.
Right. 18 months of that.
Yeah.
Multiple hell weeks.
Insane. And he talks about how his mind eventually just adapted. That extreme hardship became his new norm.
It's hard to even imagine.
Well, think about the examples he gives, like living somewhere for $7 a month versus $236. It shows how fast our minds can just adjust and accept whatever the current reality is.
Right. That was my norm, he says.
Yeah. Your mind says, Roger, that this is home. It's like habituation, Psychologically, we adapt, even to really tough stuff.
And that idea of the suffering, the brokenness in training, that becoming the new normal, that's the key to the mental resilience.
That seems to be his core point there. He gives those crazy examples, running on broken feet, stress fractures.
Unbelievable.
But he says, My mind knew this is how we operate. We're in Navy SEAL training. This is what we do.
So it's about removing the option of quitting, mentally closing all the escape hatches.
Completely. Just throwing yourself in, refusing to even consider an alternative. You force your mind to redraw its own boundaries, basically.
Yeah.
To accept this intense difficulty as just the way things are now.
Wow, okay. And that then leads into his reflections on, like, redefining our own potential.
Yeah. Because he looks back, doesn't he, to when he was, 297 pounds, working a regular job at Ecolab, and he thought he was trying hard then. He really felt like he was putting in the effort.
Right.
But looking back now, after everything he's been through, he realizes that was barely scratching the surface.
That was me trying hard, he says. It puts things in perspective.
Totally. He says, people need to understand what's in us. We have no idea until we truly start trying hard. And he means really trying hard.
It's a real wake-up call about how we see ourselves, isn't it? Our own limits.
Definitely. We often mistake our comfort zone boundary for our actual limit.
Yeah.
And real growth, the kind he's talking about. It means pushing way past that initial discomfort, making the challenge the new baseline.
That new norm idea again.
Exactly. My new norm, he says, is realizing that this isn't always going to be fun. It's not meant to be fun. That's when you know you're actually pushing hard.
Which then raises that fascinating point about how the brain actually reacts when things get incredibly difficult, like truly awful.
Right. He suggests that in those moments of extreme suffering, the brain kind of bypasses the surface stuff, like anger, resentment.
It just focuses.
Yeah, it focuses purely on survival, on pushing through the immediate pain. He says something like, when things start to suck really, really bad, my brain doesn't go to your dad beating you up. Your brain says, win it right here. This is miserable.
So the anger just fades because survival mode kicks in.
That's the idea. Anger often fades away when you're suffering because your brain says, we got to run, we got to go. It's primal. Focus on the immediate task of getting through.
And to really access that deep level of resilience, he uses that phrase, mineral soil.
Yeah, that's a powerful image.
Like you have to dig down past the surface stuff, past the topsoil, to something fundamental, unshakable.
Down to that nice mineral soil where nothing can burn you, he says. You can't burn dirt. So it has to be down that low. That literally is submenu. That's at the core of your soul.
So that mineral soil is like your absolute core values, the bedrock stuff that doesn't change.
I think that's a good way to put it. And the video is clear.
Yeah.
You don't just stumble upon this.
No.
No, it takes real work, serious self-reflection, deep engagement with what you actually want, who you want to be. As he puts it, you don't find it unless you spend a lot of time with what you want to be in life.
Okay. And then finally, the video kind of circles back to this idea of peace, which is something, you know, a lot of people are searching for.
Absolutely.
He shares his own story, wanting to serve his country, feeling like he let himself down in the past.
Right. And he pushes back against the common idea that you need to, find peace first before you tackle the hard stuff.
He argues the opposite, doesn't he?
Yeah. He says, true. Lasting peace is often found on the opposite end of finding myself. And that path involves trials, tribulations, suffering, and accountability.
Accountability. He defines that as a kind of suffering too, right? But a necessary kind.
Yes. Like the miserable but essential discipline of consistently doing what you know is right for yourself, for others, day in, day out.
And bringing that back to you, the listener, on your own journey of learning or self-improvement. It suggests that real progress, deep development, often means facing those uncomfortable challenges head on.
Yeah, and holding yourself accountable for the effort involved. It's not always pleasant, but that's often where the real growth happens.
So if we boil it all down, this deep dive into that Goggins video, it's really highlighting the just immense power inside our own heads, power we often don't even realize we have.
Exactly. It underscores how vital mental discipline is, the huge impact of just relentless grinding effort and the potential that opens up when you actually embrace challenges instead of running from them.
Unlocking capabilities you didn't know were there.
Precisely.
So with all that said,
Yeah.
Here's maybe a final thought for you to chew on. Think about some area of your life right now where you feel like you're trying hard, but maybe, just maybe, there's that little voice saying you could do more, that you haven't quite hit that mineral soil yet.
What could your new norm look like in that area?
Exactly. What new baseline could you consciously choose to adopt to really push past those limits you think you have and tap into that deeper mental strength we've been talking about?
Something to really reflect on. How could you apply these ideas? Not just hear them, but actually apply them.
Definitely food for thought. We encourage you to really sit with these ideas and see how they fit into your own journey.